Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are breaking down a massive shift happening in the legal world when it comes to how newly licensed attorneys are evaluated. If you're a law student, a legal educator, or just someone fascinated by how professional standards evolve, you know the bar exam has been this daunting, frankly exhausting rite of passage for decades. But that is changing, and it's changing fast.
Let's kick things off with the core thesis straight from the creators. The National Conference of Bar Examiners developed the NextGen Bar exam to reform how newly licensed attorneys are evaluated. The new examination shifts the testing paradigm away from intense rote memorization and toward the practical, clinical skills required in early legal practice. That fundamental pivot is exactly what we're going to explore today.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The new testing paradigm. 2. Exam structure and timing. 3. Question formats and scoring. 4. Tested subjects and skills. 5. The student perspective. And 6. Rollout timeline and California.
Section 1. The new testing paradigm.
To instantly take some weight off your shoulders, take a look at this. We are officially saying goodbye to the grueling 12-hour, 2-day marathon of the legacy uniform bar exam. The NextGen Bar exam is cutting that down to just 9 hours over 1.5 days. That reduction in sheer testing endurance is a total game changer.
So the crucial takeaway here is that you will only face 9 hours of testing. This new schedule replaces that old beast with 3 distinct 3-hour blocks. On day 1, you'll tackle 2 of those 3-hour sessions, completely separated by a midday break to catch your breath. Then day 2 wraps up the whole examination with one final 3-hour session. You literally get to go home at lunchtime on the second day.
Section 2. Question formats and scoring.
Now, what's super interesting here is how the scoring is actually broken down. It heavily emphasizes your practical capabilities alongside your core knowledge. You'll see standalone multiple choice makes up 49% of your overall score. Performance tasks account for 30%. And then we have a brand new format, integrated question sets, making up that final 21%.
Let's actually break down what those 3 formats mean for you as a candidate. First, standalone multiple choice questions are going to assess your core legal knowledge across foundational subjects. Then, the new integrated question sets, these are really fascinating. They combine multiple choice and short answer questions, and you'll have to navigate realistic scenarios, like drafting a document or counseling a client. Finally, performance tasks demand drafting or research exercises based entirely on a closed universe of legal resources that they provide to you right there on the exam. So, instead of just picking A, B, C, or D, you're actively mimicking real practice assignments.
Which brings us to Section 3, Tested Subjects and Skills.
Because you aren't just memorizing endless black-letter law anymore, the NextGen exam actually drastically narrows the core topics. The fully tested substantive subjects are now limited to business associations, civil procedure, constitutional law, contracts, criminal law and constitutional protections of accused persons, evidence, real property, and torts. Also, keep in mind family law will join this core list starting in July 2028. But what about other areas like trusts and estates? Well, those will only pop up within performance tasks, where the exam actually hands you the necessary statutory and case resources. You absolutely do not have to memorize the black-letter law for those secondary subjects.
And here is where we see that real-world focus really shine. The exam evaluates core lawyering skills by name. We're talking about legal research and writing, issue spotting and analytical reasoning, and fact investigation and evaluation. On top of that, it dives into the interpersonal side of things, with client counseling and advising, negotiation and dispute resolution, and client relationship management. These are the exact practical skills a junior associate uses every single day in a firm.
Let's pivot a bit to Section 4, the student perspective.
So, what does this actually mean for your prep? Well, the whole balancing act shifts away from this arbitrary memorization hurdle. Instead, it's about proving you can think and perform like a modern lawyer. You won't be agonizing over thousands of flashcards for obscure legal exceptions anymore. Instead, you're going to practice navigating a client file, extracting the relevant facts, and drafting clear responses on a ticking clock.
And the testing experience itself is getting a massive modern upgrade. It is an entirely computer-based format. Plus, it includes built-in accessibility tools like e-readers and voice-to-text integration. It completely eliminates those traditional standalone essay questions we all dreaded, and overall, it just mirrors real-world tasks. The shorter, skills-focused setup is going to feel way more natural to digital natives while knocking down barriers with those integrated tools.
All right, let's look at the timeline. Section 5, Rollout timeline and California.
This transition is happening in phases. A group of early adopters, specifically Oregon, Maryland, and Washington, will debut the exam first in July 2026. Most other participating jurisdictions are planning for broad adoption by July 2028, and that includes California. But California has a unique twist coming, a specific California component planned for introduction in July 2029. Looking closer at California's two-step integration plan, they are taking a very structured approach. They've officially approved adopting the NextGen Uniform Bar exam for July 2028 to replace the legacy exam. But to make sure California state law is still thoroughly covered and respected, they are actively seeking Supreme Court guidance right now to develop and roll out a specialized California component as soon as possible, with that target date of 2029.
So I'll leave you with this. Are you ready to trade rote memorization for real-world legal skills? Because as the testing paradigm finally catches up to the reality of the legal profession, the big question is no longer just how much black-letter law you can memorize in a vacuum. The real question is how well you can actually perform on day one.